Be right back. I am coming. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am, I don't know, I am chill, I'm mellow. The spring is here. There's a lot of rain, but there's also some wonderful connections that can be made during this time of the year. So that's what I'm leaving for right now. And I wanted to stop by today in episode 23 of Tuesday Tea with Annie. Here's my tea today. I woke up with a little bit of phlegm today, so I am having some herbal peppermint tea, which is all I need to clear the sinuses. And that was your tea tip of the day. Um, and today I'm talking about a topic that makes me nervous because it's a topic that really took me a while to understand and to grasp, and it's the topic of trust, but not trust in general, but self-trust, and self-trust with a purpose. I struggle a lot with trusting other people. That's kind of like my pattern, the judgment and everything. It's my need for control. The need for control that we feel as human beings usually comes from a lack of trust, either in ourselves, in other people, in a higher power. Now, I firmly believe that there is a higher power out there. Hi, Marlene. That there is a higher power out there that is helping us out, that, is rooting for us, whatever you believe in, the universe or whatnot. But when it comes to trusting ourselves, I think that is where a lot of our handicaps can be found. And I'll give you this example from a recent call I had with a client. She was facing some weird feelings about not being able to be seen, feeling uncomfortable being seen. And we started diving into it, and we started asking some questions to ourselves. And I include myself because every time I coach somebody, I am coaching myself. And the whole concept of trust is one that has evaded me for long enough. So we came to the conclusion that she has made so many mistakes, quote unquote, in the past when it comes to her judgment of others. She's been hurt so much that she didn't trust herself anymore to put herself out there in a situation that can be potentially harmful. And that got me thinking, how many times have I done that? How many times have I kept people out because I simply can't trust myself to make the right decisions or the right calls in this relationship? And, too many to count. And I think that is still something that I get to work on. But the key here is to realize that the only way to be able to trust other people is to trust your judgment. It doesn't mean, and this is the disclaimer, it doesn't mean that once you trust yourself, nobody's going to help, nobody's going to hurt you. It means that you will be able to make better decisions as to who you let into your life. Because you will start recognizing your intuition. You will start getting those vibes in. You will start listening to, okay, so what is your gut saying? And acting on that rather than just going into your mind and going into those preconceived notions that you've been socialized to believe about who's good and who's bad. Okay? Because all of those prejudices, all of those ideas all of those isms are the basis of the pain and the hurt in our society. So, how can you move into trusting yourself? The first thing that you need to know about trusting yourself is that you're going to fail at it. Not really going to fail at it. You're going to make mistakes, but you need to trust yourself to get up and learn from those mistakes. So, the first thing that you want to do is acknowledge to yourself and be generous to yourself with the idea I'm not going to be perfect. Every decision that I'm going to make from now on, it's not going to be great, but I trust myself to get up and move on. Okay? So, the basis of trust is understanding that you're not perfect and that nobody else is. So, you get to go into your heart and analyze where your ideas of how you and other people should act, where do they come from, okay? So, you get into that mindset of, I'm going to make mistakes, but that is completely fine because and only because you are willing to learn. And it's not only learning as knowing the concepts. I always like to say that it's harder to change on the outside than it is to change on the inside, because sometimes we change our mindset, sometimes we grasp concepts, but it's really, really hard to put those concepts into action. Okay, that's where hypocritical actions come in, and when we start lying to ourselves and others. I used to be one. I used to lie a lot, and that obviously did not allow for me to trust anyone else, especially when I was younger. I used to lie a lot because I wanted people to perceive me as perfect. And that did not allow me to trust me or anyone else, because I always assumed that people were operating from the same place that I was. I didn't trust anyone because I couldn't trust myself to say the truth. You know, when you're a kid and you pretend that you're traveling when you're not, that you have these relationships when you're not, that you have this wonderful grown-up life when you're not. So I couldn't trust myself. And that prevented me from really going in and getting to know who I was, getting to know how I felt about some things. So my invitation to you is to first get honest with yourself. Then start taking small steps towards towards the lessons that honesty is giving you. So what does this mean? If you realize that there is a pattern in your life that you get to change, if you realize that there is a big lesson in your life that will allow you to move forward, you plunge into it, you dive into it, you give it your 100%, understanding that there's no guarantees, but understanding that you're strong enough and that no matter what happens, you are going to get to the other side, okay? So the only way you're going to trust other people is to trust yourself. Okay, so one of the biggest components of trust, and this is very, very important, is boundaries, okay? I talked about them on the last video. I want to dive into them now. You need to understand what are the barriers, what are the lines that nobody can cross with you? What are the things that no one can, or that you won't accept from anyone? Because that will be the trust meter for you. Whether you allow people to push you down, whether you allow people to abuse you, whether you allow people to lie to you, will either make or break your trust in yourself. So not only do you need to know your boundaries, you need to exercise them. You need to establish them. You need to either have the conversations or make sure you walk away from situations that trespass those boundaries. Okay? So make sure that in the path of trusting yourself, you are getting really, really clear on what your boundaries, your permissions, your confines are, because by standing in those boundaries is the only way you can really count on yourself. That brings me to accountability. The only way you can trust yourself is if you do the things you say you're gonna do. I used to suck at that. I used to suck at that because I wanted to be liked and I wanted to be needed. So I would say I was gonna do something, and the second I felt like I was gonna get my way, or I was gonna get that little high you get when you're needed, that was a moment when I just took it back and didn't follow through with what I promised myself. This is a habit that a lot of us have and a lot of us foster. And my invitation to you is to start being your word, because your word is the only thing you have. You can only trust yourself to the level of accountability and self accountability that you foster in your life. Okay, so today's going to be short and sweet. I have a couple of calls, guys. If you have any questions about trust, if you have any comments about trust, please make sure to drop them in the comments. I think that I can get way deeper into this topic, but today we're going to just leave it at high level. Just remember to understand that you will make mistakes, and that is not a reason to not trust yourself. Understand that you need to set boundaries and respect those boundaries, not only for yourself but for others. And seriously, just be accountable. Do what you say you're going to do, and that is when you start trusting yourself. That is when you start keeping promises to yourself. Recently I made a video about when I stopped drinking. I am going into my first year of sobriety, at least on the drinking side. When I say at least on the drinking side, I believe that humans, we are addicted to things, and there's other coping mechanisms. So as I celebrate not drinking for a year, that is the first thing I ever did that really made me realize that I could trust myself. So what is one promise that you can make to yourself today to hold yourself accountable and build on that trust? Because building on that trust is the only way that you can trust other people. So it's the only way that you can have healthy relationships, a healthy support system, a healthy job life. So if you have any comments, drop them here. And it was a pleasure, everyone. Have a great day.